the July 19th, 2023 meeting at 6:30 PM of the Harwich Conservation Commission. This continues to be, we continue to have hybrid meetings. Anyone who wants to participate in the meeting online can find instructions for logging on the Conservation Department webpage on the town website. So I guess we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So the first thing on the agenda is public comment, possible update on 374 Main Street property.
I have it here, Michelle.
Who's that? Hello? Somebody online?
Hello?
Hello? Can you identify yourself, please? Do you have something to say? Okay, well, let's proceed. Are you muted, or did you mute?
I muted him. I don't know if it was just a random caller or not, so if you tell him to unmute himself.
Okay, well, I had discussed, as I said last meeting, had discussed with Mike McCaskill that he might come.
Mm-hmm.
He might have come last meeting, he did not. I spoke with him the other day on the phone, and he said he didn't plan to attend this meeting because he didn't have anything new to report. There's a few things to discuss about that. I think we should go through the rest of the agenda and get to that at the end, if people agree. I guess since we have public comment here, looks like the caller disappeared and there's no one else in the room, so I don't think there's any further public comment, so let's go to the next item on the agenda. That is a request for a change in plans for 5 Fiddler's Landing, map 6, parcel A1-8, SE 32-2469, for demo of an existing single-family dwelling and reconstruction and site improvements.
So just an update on that. They had requested a change in plan just for 2 very small things, but when I conducted the site visit, it resulted in discovering a fenced utility area that was shown on a landscape plan that was done by a different firm after we had approved the site plan and mitigation plan. It had already been installed and it's fenced off, it's gravel base, and that's where the utilities had been, like the AC units had been installed. I spoke with the builder and again said that this was an after permitting thing. The engineer, I don't think was aware of the new landscape architect doing this either. So I told them they can't do anything new in the 0 to 50 because they had planned on doing like raised bed, like formal garden areas, it looked like, according to the plan. They hadn't done that yet. What they had done was at the 50-foot line landward, and it was, stockade fencing. So instead of doing the change in plan tonight, what the builder and I agreed would be the better course of action is to table the request for a change in plan and figure out how to handle kind of the stuff that was done without a permit. I asked for an amendment conditions for the fenced-in area outside the 50 with mitigation at a 2-to-1 ratio, contiguous with the mitigation already approved on the site as an after-the-fact amendment. Nothing new in the 0 to 50. So they're working with the owners, and they're going to send me a draft plan within the next few days. So we don't need a formal continuance for this because it wasn't, and actually, it's just a change in plan is not one of those hearings that you have to notify your abutters. But I told them it would be good to see them at the next meeting.
Okay, so we don't.
You don't need
vote
to
on
take
that.
any action, but I wanted to update you on it.
Okay. Questions or comments? Okay, let's proceed to next item. It's a notice of intent for 109 Riverside Drive, map 4, parcel A3-A2 for the reconstruction of a licensed dock.
To the caller who's on, can you please mute yourself until the topic that you're here for comes up?
Okay,
So 109 Riverside Drive would like a continuance till 8/2. Don Monroe of Coastal Engineering has been out the past few weeks and did not realize that the fiber rolls were going to be part of the project and doesn't think the project necessarily needs them. So that was proposed by, I think, the land management people. And that was a concern that I had, was there a real need for this, for the fiber roll? So I'm meeting with him tomorrow. We'd like a continuance to the 2nd.
discussion? Hearing none, can we have a motion?
Sure. I'll move that we continue the public hearing on the notice of intent for 109 Riverside Drive, map 4, parcel A3-A2, to our meeting of August 2nd, 2023.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Six.
Next is a notice of intent for 33 Snow Inn Road, map 8, parcel P3, for the proposed addition to an existing single-family dwelling.
I don't know why. Unlike the other ones, I don't know why they're requesting a continuance, but they requested a continuance. They did last time as well. I'd say give it to them. I'd recommend giving them a continuance this time, and if they keep asking for continuances, we indefinitely continue them. Which
So
means,
one more to a date certain,
yep,
and-
to 8/2.
okay?
Okay, I'll move that we continue the public hearing for the notice of intent for 33 Snow Inn Road, map 8, parcel P3, to our meeting of August 2nd, 2023.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, 5-0. On to an order of conditions for SE 32-2535, 587 Pleasant Lake Ave, map 110, parcel C1-93, for the creation of an on-grade path to water and pruning to create a view corridor and a small landing near the pond.
The special conditions were in your Dropbox, so if you have any edits, I'll gladly take them.
I don't have any comments. Need time to, okay. We have a
Okay.
motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we approve the order of conditions for 5887 Pleasant Lake Avenue, map 110, parcel C1-93.
Can we have a second?
Second.
Go ahead.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. So then we have requests for, is that 4 requests for a certificate of compliance? One?
We have 4, but for 3 for, well, they are 4 different properties. 3 are in our neighbors. Do you want to do
Let's
the
do,
separate one first for 10 Captain Scott?
sure, so for 10 Captain Scott Road, map 103, parcel W1-19, SE 32-2484 for a seasonal dock.
It was inspected and found to be in compliance. The lift where it should be, the dock, the pruning has been done correctly. The dock is right size, right location. They're storing kayaks on the racks, and they have done their plantings. The plants have not been in for 2 years, but look pretty good. I would recommend assertive compliance with the condition that the mitigation plants die. They need to be replaced with the ongoing, and also the ongoing condition of no fertilizers or other chemicals.
And that is already in the order of conditions.
But it'll be included as an ongoing condition in the certificate of compliance.
Okay.
Quick question for Amy. The last photo in the cert, any chance that this site had beach augmentation or beach nourishment? Nope,
Mm-mm.
this is the way it is?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it's pretty open, it's pretty used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Anybody in public? Anybody online? Okay, hearing none.
Okay, I'll move that we approve the certificate of compliance for 10 Captain Scott Road, map 103, parcel W1-19, with the condition that if the mitigation planting dies at any time, they'd be replaced in kind.
Can we have a second?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Okay, so then 3 related,
Yeah, do you want to announce them all together?
yes, I will announce them. These are requests for certificates of compliance for 226 South Westgate Road, map 56, parcel M2-5, SE 32-1952 for a new dwelling for 230 South Westgate Road, map 56, parcel M2-4, SE 32-1953 for a new dwelling, and 236 South Westgate Road, map 56, parcel M2-3, SE 32-1954, also for a new dwelling.
So with all of these 3 permits, no work was done under these permits in front of you. All work that has happened on the sites have been done with different, more recent permits. So I would recommend, and these are, so they're just sitting out there. I recommend certs of compliance for work not done for all 3.
So can I ask, what is the status of the permits, the subsequent permits? Is the work complete and it has,
Almost. They have an open order for the southernmost, I think that's 236 Southwest Gate. I can't remember which is the most southern, but there's an open permit for that. And on last inspection, it wasn't finished yet, but they had their no disturb zone had been established. The house is up, and there was just, looks like, just finishing up. And one of them where the house is not in our jurisdiction, and the other one only yard work was. And I don't know exactly where that one falls.
Is that because of the river?
Yeah, there's a river.
No, I'm not hearing
Yeah,
that.
yeah, the stream.
okay, any other comments? Okay, we can take care of this with a single motion?
I will make a motion that we approve the certificates of compliance for the following properties. Number 1, 226 South Westgate Road, map 56, parcel M2-5, SE 32-1952. Property number 2, 230 South Westgate Road, map 56, parcel M2-4, SE 32-1953, and property number 3, 236 Westgate Road, map 56, parcel M2-3, SE 32-1954.
Second. One comment. The address of the last item is South.
South Westgate Road, sorry about that. I will amend my motion to include that.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Mr. Chairman, if you could either do the discussion or the minutes, I just need to excuse myself for a moment.
Okay. So, are you ready to talk about Bell's Neck, or shall we wait for you, Amy, to talk about?
I would say
Okay.
these minutes are probably the most, least detailed minutes we've ever seen, so let's
Well, they were short meetings, too.
So let's just knock them out.
Okay. I don't have any comments on the minutes.
I have no comment.
I don't either.
No, I don't either.
Okay,
Go ahead, make a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes for June 22nd, 2023, and July 5th, 2023.
and I'll second.
Favor?
Wow, as quick as the meetings were. I can't believe both of those were out before 8 o'clock.
We're on that road
Look
now.
at where we are now.
What happened?
I don't know.
All the projects are done, I guess.
So, while we're waiting for Amy,
Yeah.
I'll say a little more about my conversation
Soon.
with Mr. McCaskill. What he told me was that he was expecting, I think I talked to him on Monday, he was expecting to speak again with lawyers that day. He said there were a few details to be resolved before they have a final draft of an agreement with the tech school. And that once that is in place, he will send it to us for us to review. And once we have had a chance to review, he will schedule a joint meeting with the Select Board, excuse me. Where we can go through it and ask any questions we have about it. And it seemed like the earliest possible date for that would be their first August meeting, which is August 7th, I believe. They're on a 2-week schedule now. The other thing I had discussed with them back a while was, I was suggesting to him that it would be good if we scheduled a posted meeting of the commission to go and visit the Main Street bog, just for people to get a look at what's happening there and ask whatever questions. And he, subsequent to having that discussion, apparently he had a talk with Leo about that, and Leo said fine. I agreed with Mike that at this meeting, we would choose a date and then schedule, I think maybe we might choose 2 dates, just so that, to increase the chance that we don't run into a conflict with somebody, Leo. And if, it may be that Mike, I think Mike said he would like to be there as well, and that other select board members or even tech school people might want to be there at the same time to do a run-through and see where things are. So, I don't know what, I'd like to hear all your thoughts about any of that. Okay,
Pick a date.
okay, well, let's talk about a date. What do you think, Amy?
I'm out for about a week in the beginning of August, so later August would be preferable.
Not August 12th.
I
Not,
can't do that either. It's a Saturday. I mean, if need to be, I can do a Saturday. I just can't do that Saturday. I have people down. So,
I'm gonna be riding around Loudon Speedway in a NASCAR.
there you go. Ooh,
Tear it up.
I see. Right, and I'm, weekend of the 19th, I'm not available.
John,
Yep.
may I suggest that if people have a lot of conflicts in August, people have company
Right.
coming, maybe it would be better if we looked at a date sometime in early September.
Yeah, I'd rather get this done sooner rather than later, personally. But if we can't find a time, we can't find a time. Do people have a problem with doing this during the week sometime?
Noons are good for me after 3.
My limitation's almost always Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off Cape all day. So I think you book it as you can, if it's time sensitive, and if I can possibly make it, I'll come, but
Well,
Could
what
you
about
do
the
Fri-
11th, for example? Or,
11th of August,
Yeah.
Friday?
I'm booked noon to 2 on the 11th.
yeah.
so I could
That's
do-
I'm off
Go
like
away.
that Thursday to the next Wednesday.
oh,
So-
through the 16th,
Yeah. If we could do
21st to the 25th?
the 25th, I could, I mean, I don't have to necessarily be there. I'd like to, but,
I think it would be good.
I could do the 25th and we can do it later in the day. I don't mind on a Friday. It's
I
fine.
wouldn't be able to do the 25th,
Okay,
but I mean, you could go ahead with that one.
I mean, I could do the Saturday, the 26th too. It doesn't matter. I'll just flex my
Wednesdays seem
hours.
to work pretty well for a lot of folks, don't they? Wednesdays?
Well, we're starting to change, we're gonna be changing the, we're going to Tuesdays next time to do, site visits in the late in the afternoon.
Are you away on August the 9th? That's a Wednesday.
No, I'm here. I have company coming on the 10th, but I could do the 9th.
I'm going before the Chatham Conservation Commission for a project that, they meet in the daytime at 1
I know.
o'clock. So I'm booked for 1 o'clock, but I'll be on the Cape that Wednesday.
Mhm. Yeah,
Alan says he can do 3 or after.
2 or 3, anything after 2, I can make it be
You
accommodated.
could do 3, Sophia.
Afternoon,
I could do 3.
3.
3 works for me.
Want to try
It's cooler.
Wednesday, August 9th at 3 PM?
Do you want to just say 3:30 in case I'm later on the agenda? I don't even know what their agendas go. When I say 1, the meeting starts at 1.
Right.
And they haven't issued the agenda.
I think you have an in with the administrator over there. Call Nikki and be like, can you put me first,
Yeah,
please?
put me on first. They should. All right, well, that,
Okay.
3:30 is fine, all right?
Yeah.
3:30 on the 9th? 3:30 on the 9th?
okay,
Is that good?
I will,
Do we
So
want to
this-
come up with a second one or just see what we get for that? Just
let's
see
see
what
what
we
we get for that, and then it seems like a second one would be,
get. The end of August,
Yeah.
probably.
because you're not here on other Wednesdays during the month of
Pretty
August.
uncommon to be here on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
I
Would
just-
Mondays work?
I can do most Mondays.
If it's the end of the day, that's fine for me.
Yeah. Mondays are fine for me towards the end of the day. So,
Well, 14th?
Is that Plan B or is that?
Plan B,
Okay, yeah.
A and B is the 14th.
August 14th, 3:30.
And what time, 3:30, okay.
All right, if you, John, you want to ask them or ask Mike or
Yeah, sure, I'll call.
copy me.
I better,
I'll just need, I'd want to advertise,
so, right, need time to,
I just need to do an agenda. If it's not a public hearing, we don't have to do a paper, legal ad, but if it's a public meeting, we have to post an agenda. I'd like to do that by the 4th.
so we're talking about August 9th at 3:30. August 14, 3:30. Okay, all right. Great,
Great.
that's good.
Did you do the minutes when I was out?
We did,
Any changes?
no.
Okay, good.
Okay, so then we have one item. Any other questions or comments about Main Street Bog? Are we done with that? Okay. So then we have the Bell's Neck Land Management Plan.
Oh, wait a minute. I can't do the 14th. I'm sorry. But I could do the
Okay.
21st or 28th. Those are all other Mondays. I apologize. I hadn't put the other thing in my calendar yet.
Yeah, I can't do the 21st, but I can do the 28th.
Sorry, guys.
So,
The 28th is Plan B, August 28th.
okay.
Sorry. August is usually a quieter month, and now it's like everybody wants to, I have two groups coming. I have one for like 3 days and the next one for 3 days. My house not big enough for two at the same time.
Okay,
We do have some updates for Bell's Neck, if we wanted to at least go through some of the updates that have been done.
let's do that.
And so at the last, like, big substantive meeting we had on this, we ended at section 6. So potentially, after I quickly go through the updates to the first 2/3 of the document that we've already done, if we want us, if you have time and want us to go through those last few pages, we could do that tonight too.
I think we should do that.
All right. So first, I did share the Bell's Neck water flow management plan, Brad, that you drafted with Heinz. He is going to get his input by the time he leaves, before he leaves this week. So I don't have anything yet on that, but he will do that. Sophia, thank you. I got your list of plans, and I haven't had a chance to meld them, but we'll do that. Brad, I got your fish are now in, I gave you what the latest and greatest as of today is in front of you. And, yeah. Do we want to go through quickly just the major edits that have been made aside from those? So on the first page, so the blue writing at the bottom, I do think that this section should be located elsewhere. Because I don't think it fits in the introduction, but we haven't moved it yet. But these are the updates that have been done since, progress since the 2012 plan. In 2022, the parking area at the fish ladder off Depot Street was moved back a few feet, and a native wildflower mix and a few bare root red maples were planted. This did help provide a slightly better vegetated buffer. We may wish to consider in the long run locating that parking lot, even farther back, and potentially, carving out a new area for that. That's just my thoughts, and revegetating more in the buffer there. Actually, I should have put the heavy-duty wood fencing there, too.
Which
keep-
item are you under, Amy, please?
So I'm on the first page at the bottom where it's blue.
Okay, sorry.
Then flipping over to the next page. Since the original land management plan, the Natural Resource Department has installed a net to keep herring out of the little pond to the west of the herring ladder, which helps keep herring out of the naturalizing bogs. Number 3, there's been some manual removal of invasive plant species since the adoption of the plan. Bittersweet, multiflora rose, gray willow, autumn olive, and honeysuckle have been cut from the bogs off Depot Street as well as along the trails. Ongoing maintenance or removal of invasives is needed, and a priority being the treatment of the Phragmites that is starting to colonize the bogs off Depot Street. I'd like to get proposals out for that soon, because it would be nice to treat it this fall. We installed heavy-duty wooden fencing at 4 spots adjacent to the bogs to keep people from illegally driving around them. They are easy to remove in case of emergency. Stone piles have been added to the sides of Bell's Neck Road where vehicles had previously been driving in through the conservation area. These piles are now failing and should be replaced with the same heavy-duty wooden fencing to keep cars off the bog access. The same fencing that we've used elsewhere. The fencing has been purchased and we have it. It's just waiting for the summer to get a little bit, summer to pass a little bit, and DPW to have a little bit more time, because these are heavy duty, they require a machine to go in.
So Amy,
Mm-hmm.
two things which I would like to discuss after we're done with this.
Yep.
But I'm bringing them up now so that I don't forget. One is I want to talk a little bit more about what needs to be done to initiate bids or whatever for treating the invasives like Phragmites. And I also want to talk about CPC's desire to put up some banner somewhere on conservation property. But let's not get distracted with that
Yes.
right now, but let's do it before we leave tonight.
So do you want to talk about the process of getting bids for the Phragmites removal? So if anything below 10 grand is kind of best business practices. You don't have to solicit bids. Between 10 and 50 grand, we have to put out a request for at least 3 firms to give us bids. I think we're gonna be in that 10 to 50,000 range.
I see.
On the lower end, I would think of that range, but still above 10. So that does not, it's a lot easier than, for some reason, if they come back high, initial estimate came back, I think at 12 grand. So we might be in the 20 range, I would say right now.
What kind of process?
It's a cut and wipe method.
What are you gonna wipe it
It's
with? What
usually a
chemical?
glyphosate-based. Timing is important, and also what makes this stand a little harder, which jacks the price up, is the fact that it's not a really thick contiguous stand. It's like there's one here, and one here, and one here. So it's very manual labor intensive to do it.
Is that quote for one round or multiple treatments?
I don't remember, it was a while ago. Probably one.
So you need to launch an RFP? What,
I think I'd like to put some feelers out again.
Okay.
I'm just trying, finding time to do it. But it's not a lot to put some feelers out to places like Blue Flax Design, Crawford Land Management, Wilkinson Ecological, kind of the bigger companies that do this restoration type work. So, that's 3 right there. I think, Lindsay Strode from Cape Organics would be a 4th, I would ask. If anybody knows, we can't necessarily recommend, but if anybody knows of anybody else who has a firm, that has certified herbicide applicators and can do this type of work, please let me know.
okay.
I'm not sure if Michael Talbot is doing it. He's not well known around here. He's more in the Barnstable area, but
May I ask a question? Is that our priority, number one, is to go after them, or do we have other priorities that we gotta address first? Where does that fall on?
I would consider it a very high priority before it gets worse and more money, because every year it's getting worse and worse. And it's gonna choke out the bogs and outcompete other native species. It's really aggressive, and I would put it as a very high priority.
No, I'm just asking
Mhm.
questions. Part of naturalization, isn't that naturalization to let it grow and just let it go? I know it's an invasive
It's
species.
an invasive
I
species,
understand,
it's-
I understand, but,
No,
I
it is natural, it's just that it's
Not-
invasive, it's not
it's
the
in-
one you want.
it's not the one we want, right? So I'm just looking at priorities. I didn't know if the water going into the water, I mean, the sand erosion going down the Bell's Neck Road is more priority than the invasive I don't know, did we ever make a priority list, I guess, and
We haven't
identify
yet,
that?
we haven't, so that's
Just parking.
certainly something we can talk about. And my priorities might be different than yours, and ultimately, it's your document, so.
Well, that's why I'm just asking. I don't know if we had that discussion on prioritizing things.
Well, so I think that's a reasonable thing to talk about, and we do need to do that.
Mhm.
I don't know that we're prepared to do that tonight,
Probably
but
not.
that shouldn't stop Amy from putting out feelers
Yeah.
and finding out, you know,
Yeah, what we're
finding out
dealing
what
with.
the interest is
Yeah, yeah,
and
no, I'm-
getting some idea of the cost. And
Yeah.
I agree with Amy that it's high priority because I see other places where Phragmites is taken over and it's really horrendous. If you let it take over, in the end, there's not much you can do about it unless you're gonna spend millions.
The Main
And
Street
even-
Bog, you'll see them there.
What's
You'll
that?
see them at the Main Street Bog, too.
Right, well, just down the street from me on Uncle Beanie's, it's horrendous. I don't know, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a
still-
whole different discussion, but it's just an example of what happens when it gets out of control.
So if I can,
Oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
I'm just asking because
Mhm.
if you put an RFP together, I don't know how much funds you have. And I was just saying, maybe we could put more items in the RFP and accomplish more. That's all I was trying to get to.
Mhm.
You know, if we can fix and great, I mean, companies can do a variety of things.
Mhm.
So why not put all in one and cover it if we have
Yeah.
some money? That's all I'm trying to say. And make it an alternate, you could take it out of the bid if
Yeah.
it doesn't fit.
I don't know if the same companies that do invasive treatment are gonna be doing, I understand what you're saying,
Well, they can sub people
be
out.
doing, can do road work, you know.
Another thought is the blueberry concept, which I think is really a good priority, maybe not quite as high as the frag, but maybe there could be some legwork done on just seeing, okay, what does it mean to, you know, put a purchase in for those? And does it need an RFP? But that's an example where you probably gotta keep it separate, but that might be a good
Wayne looked at prices.
Yeah, I think it was $12 or something per
Yeah.
plant.
Yeah.
Times
But
100 plants,
That's
1,200 bucks or
purchasing
whatever.
something. That's
I
not
can
labor.
double check
The
it and go
labor's a
back to
big
them
part
and
about
find
the
out.
bidding stuff.
Right.
That's prevailing wages
Yep.
and Davis-Bacon law, so.
Yeah,
Just
purchase is
example of-
way easier.
priorities, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Right, it's
I'd tuck that in as a mid-level priority.
So maybe what we do, suggestion, we get through the document, and once we have the document with everything fixed in it, then we can prioritize and move things around.
Okay. So let's proceed.
One more comment on the progress. So number one, on the parking area, my thoughts for there, I agree with Amy that a bigger buffer would be good, but I do think that I like public access in that spot.
Mhm.
And I think public access is gonna come whether you want it or not, because people wanna see the fish so badly.
Yeah.
So I just put a placeholder, that I don't mind expanding the buffer, if you can figure out through parking, but maybe your plantings could try to like improve the buffer and get some canopy, but accepting there will be a strip where people are gonna walk to look at the fish.
I agree 100%. I think we should improve that for handicap accessibility and all access.
What was the total count this season?
About 530,000.
Really, that's all, huh?
Well,
That's a lot, I know, but,
Better than last year.
big jump from last year and the second biggest run in the state.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
What's the biggest?
Pembroke came out of the blue and just had so many
Pembroke.
fish, had 570,000.
that-
Last year they had 40,000.
Is
What?
that the North River?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
And I think they just didn't poke in that tributary last year, and they went elsewhere.
Huh.
And everyone thought the sky fell, but I think the fish just went someplace else.
Huh.
oh.
But they came in strong this year and beat us out slightly, so.
All right.
Cool. So where are you suggesting this section is gonna go to?
I think it really goes under, it really goes in management. which is section 5.
Okay. Right.
Because just looking at the form of, when you look at the front page, it's an introduction, it's meant to be an intro to this whole document. And this gets into the nitty-gritty of what's been done. So it's not just a basic overview at that point, so it's just the
That makes sense.
organizer in me. All right, so a lot of the rest of the stuff was very minor that we had to incorporate. I looked at the soil survey. This is on page 3 I'm jumping to, because there was nothing substantial, really just word changes before that. John, you had asked about if the soil survey for Barnstable County had been updated since 1993, and it has not. So we can put that as an index, or I can just put a website there. I think it would be appropriate just to do a website within the body of that, rather than putting the whole thing as an appendix, but it's up to you, you guys.
That makes sense.
Okay. The only thing so climate change, Brad, we were gonna add a section there, and I'm happy to assist with that if you want to. Any help?
Yeah, I think I'll just find some good citations
Yeah.
that, speak to warming and sea level rise,
Yeah.
and so it won't be too extensive.
Something doesn't eutrophication is not a direct result, but certainly the algae blooms because the water being warmer has been exacerbated.
Yep.
Oddly, I'm not even gonna say it, never mind.
You got us
We
on
usually
suspense.
have a bloom by this point.
Oh, this is a knock on wood moment. That's
You know
what's
why
happening.
we don't
here.
have one, in my opinion? Because of all the rain and the flowage.
Probably
Sometimes
the
that,
flow, yeah,
Because the river is moving now
Yeah.
from Hinckley's Pond down. It's that-
something,
You can see it.
because the temperature is certainly up there.
The river needs to be maintained with flowage.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
You might be right about that, whereas the harbors, I think, are suffering from blooms because of runoff.
It's interesting, right, so, and it's the cumulative, stuff that's getting all the way down into the harbors, because of all this rain. But this one doesn't have a bloom that we, yet, but also other ponds in Harwich that have historically started having issues this time of year, aren't. So we had, like Seymour, which has never been treated, historically has a little bit of a bloom, specifically on the Brewster side. Bucks and John Joseph Pond in the Great Sand Lakes, they get cloudy and a little, they have minor blooms usually by now. Hinckley we treated, so it shouldn't. Skinnequit looks clean
it
so
is,
far.
it's clear. It's so clear you can see the scum on the bottom.
Oh. So it's,
Not-
there's some that are not highly, as impacted by the river, that are still not showing. But other parts, well, the typical ones in the Barnstable, Mashpee area are in the red right now, and are closed. But not a lot of ponds on Cape have, usually Big Cliff, but up in Nickerson by this time of year will have an algae bloom. So knock on wood, 'cause
Interesting.
yeah, it's a weird year. Sometimes with heavy rain years, you expect a bloom because it is all that extra nutrients getting in with a big flush.
Right.
In other years, it's not, so. Let's see. We added some fish inventories, and Sophia got me a nice updated list that I have to incorporate on the plants. So that's all one thing I wanted to ask you. Do you like having all of these tables in the body of the document, or would you prefer to see them as appendices? You don't have to answer me, but
I
right
like
now,
tucking into the appendix.
as an appendix.
Yeah, I think that for me, because they take up several pages.
And you're reading the document and all of a sudden it's broken up by this list and then it picks up again.
Yeah.
I don't think it flows.
Yeah, that's my feeling. I don't have a strong preference. Very cool to see the ball legal make the list.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, that probably
Well, I'll
makes
put it as
sense.
appendices, and when you see the final, you can tell me if you like it or not. All right?
Yep.
Onward, on page 9. Added our link to our town native plant list. On page 10, the next page, again, talked about the stand of Phragmites and the bogs off Depot Street, as well as, there's a very tiny stand in the West Reservoir that we dug as much as we could out last year, but we got a little bit of regrowth. So, again, kind of alluding to an action item there in section 3.2.2 salt marshes. Getting there, almost there. Oh, go ahead.
Just a little bit of grammar, sorry about this.
No, you're
but
good.
Page 11 at the top. Blue crabs occupy this area during the summer and providing a popular shore fishery. That's, and provide a popular shore fishery.
Where, you said on top of page 12?
Top of page 11.
Oh,
First red sentence.
Blue crabs occupy this area during the summer
and provide.
Sorry.
You're good, thank you. Okay. Page 14. In the middle of the page, talking about these social trails. This was a recommendation back from 2012. By eliminating some of the vehicular traffic, it has helped narrow the trails a little bit in there, which is a good thing. This is kind of maybe an AmeriCorps project thing. I just mentioned it because I think it's a priority, but I don't know if it's a really, really high priority, because a lot of those little social trails, when I've walked the sites, I mean, there's a lot of them, but they're not really harming that much. There's a couple of areas of erosion that we can take care of and maybe offer 1 or 2 locations for better public access. But I don't think it's a top priority at this point.
Speaking of trails and all that, and you tend to say that you like them growing in, has the fire department weighed in on any of these things for access? If there's somebody in the public that walks and has an emergency, I mean, should we consider a certain width in certain
can.
areas? Because somebody's walking way out behind my house on the old Bald Hill Road or something, they have a heart attack. How are they gonna get there? I mean, so, I mean, all these things, they all play in, the more use, the more people, the more likeliness something's gonna happen. And God forbid, but I'm
Right,
just
right.
saying. I would look towards, and even in the fire,
Yeah.
you know, brush breakers, I mean, I don't know if we have a brush breaker left, I don't know.
I think it
We used to.
we borrow it from
small one.
Brewster.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, access overall, I wouldn't wanna see it all go into a tunnel. And then you
No.
can't, no, I'm just,
Yeah.
from what it was and coming down, I just think we should keep that in the back of our minds.
Safety is definitely important.
I don't know if, sorry,
Yeah, go ahead, ask.
if I put comments in properly, did you see any other ones that I put in?
I got them in a strange format.
Yeah, okay. so-
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, I couldn't figure out how to do it right. But I had a couple of other,
Please.
so the gypsy moth on the list, we don't We don't call it gypsy moth anymore,
Oh,
spongy.
spongy moth.
Spongy moth.
Really?
Oh, I think I did see that one, but I couldn't, yeah. Spongy moth, got it.
And then on 13, that first paragraph, I don't know, I don't even know where to find my comments now either, but I thought this sentence was a little weird. Treatment of the moths and borers can also be done by spraying species-specific pesticides such as 7. And then it says, but this course of action is not recommended because 7 is non-selective and will harm beneficial species.
Maybe that just gets eliminated.
Yeah, it's just
Where is that? Oh, I see it.
last 2 sentences, just sort of weird.
I mean, we can have this discussion. I don't foresee us treating for moths and borers
Yeah.
in there at all.
I mean, the state might, if they had an
Right.
infestation of moths, we've had that before, they used a helicopter and do the gypsy moth.
The state would, but in terms of us taking that on,
Right. It'd be an emergency
right.
vision or something.
Yeah, and it's kind of an unusual circumstance. So I think we just eliminate the last sentence.
2 sentences.
2 sentences, yes. Sounds good.
I see, okay.
That was a good catch. I kind of whipped through that. Didn't raise any flags. That's a good point.
Good to have more eyeballs on
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
So do you have other comments, Sophia?
I'd have to find them.
Okay.
Continue, thank you, sorry.
I could see them, I just had to find a way to incorporate them, so, or I couldn't see where they were. It was very bizarre, the way
Okay.
Dropbox did it. We can chat, though.
Okay, thank you.
Other than that, just minor things. So I think we're on, let me just make sure before we get to section 6, which is where we left off during that meeting that we kind of banged through most of this document. Yeah, so if you want to pick up starting on page 19, that's where we left off after our are under item 6, which is the 5-year maintenance summary. And I think maybe we don't call it a 5-year maintenance summary. Or at least not 5 years. But this is where we talk about our goals. So that is where that's where some other things would go.
So goals and maintenance summary or something like that?
Yeah. And I wouldn't say, I mean, we could put a term, having the 5 years is a good time because it doesn't give you, it gives you enough time, but not open-ended amount of time to do things, so.
It speaks about reduction in trail widths here.
Hmm?
It speaks about reduction of trail width.
Yeah. Yeah, so we haven't really edited this piece,
No, I understand.
yeah.
Excuse me. Now, I'm just gonna ask a question that I don't have an answer to, I don't know it, but that's why I'm asking the question. Are all these trails supposed to be handicap accessible?
No.
And how do we, why is that? Do you know why? I don't wanna put you on the spot, but is there a reason why they wouldn't have to be? Good
They-
question. And I mean, Who's to say that somebody in a wheelchair doesn't wanna go all the way out and try to look for the bald eagle in the middle of, between Bell's Neck Road and the Heron Ladder, on that trail that goes back and forth? And we can't provide the access for them.
I think we
I'm
just,
throwing
I
this out
don't
there.
know definitively, I think we need to provide, like, we probably should have a designated spot for them to park at the fish ladder, but then how they get up there, I don't know the answer to that.
And that's fair, and I wouldn't expect you, because none of us probably know that answer right now, but I think it's something we should really look into, because it is such a jewel for the town of Harwich. Everybody wants to enjoy, and if my father could get there, he would've got there, he couldn't get there, but, you know, so, he used to when he was a kid, when he could walk, but, it'd be something to think about.
I've got one question for everybody. So, you know, you want to provide that for certain, but, you know, meeting codes, you know, meeting handicap codes, is that like a requirement? If you like endeavor to provide handicap access, do you have to then meet the letter of the law?
Yeah.
Which can.
Yes, which,
Sounds like a can of worms to me.
Well, see, I worry about terrain grade changes.
Yeah, exactly.
When all of a sudden.
Width and your grade
Yeah.
change and all sorts of stuff, yeah.
Well,
It's all buffer zone, well, not all, but there's a lot of buffer zone, and so grade changes in buffer zones, to me, it's not practical. So can you be preemptive and just provide access at certain places where it makes a lot of sense?
that's what I see, like, HCT doing, is maybe they don't make the entire property ADA accessible, but they make a portion of it, like what they're proposing to do, you know, they're gonna be doing at the Bank Street Bogs parcel,
Yeah,
is doing a section that is, and, yeah. You run also the light, like, if things wash out,
yeah.
so a lot of times ADA, there's a certain material, certain compaction, hard to,
well, I know when they redid the bicycle path, the DCR, that was one of their main concerns, is accessible for handicap accessibility, so, you know, they did that there, and that runs right through this area. And I don't know the answer. And is it feasible? It's somebody, I don't even wanna go there, I'm gonna strike that, but,
I think you try to improve.
I think we
access
should have some
handicap.
areas, yeah,
I think you do.
definitely.
It's not realistic to say we're gonna make all these buffer zones that way. It'd be too disruptive. I don't even know how it fits in with the act,
you know,
in our
it would
bylaws.
fragment.
I mean, how does that connect?
You might have to look at relocating trails completely to do, in order to do that,
That's true.
because a lot of the terrain, the grades, wouldn't be able to do it.
No, I understand.
But,
But maybe you have one ramp or something that lets them look into the fishway.
I mean, that's the caveat right there. It's like the town hall in Sandwich, where the water wheel is, and the
Mhm.
cars run there.
mhm,
And they made that beautiful. Everybody that can go there, you know, so I mean,
mhm.
that's one spot.
So I understood your question, and maybe I misunderstood it, is whether there's some statutory requirement that all of these trails be ADA accessible, which I would think the answer is probably absolutely not, but you're raising the question.
Mhm.
I'd like to hear a definitive answer. I mean, one thing is, if you decide you're gonna make it accessible, then your point is, then there's a whole bunch of requirements and codes you have to meet. But what's the obligation to do that? I understand the impulse to do it, but I don't.
I have,
I
I
don't
think
think
Mike
there's-
Locke would be a good contact person for me to start out, to ask first. With the Harwich Conservation Trust, they have a lot more experience with it, and obviously they've, you know, in their more recent project, have had to read through all the ADA regulations, and
Right.
so, we'll start looking.
I think the word is reasonable accommodations.
Right,
That's what they
right.
use in the term, so.
Yeah, and I also think that, you know, going back to the original ADA requirements, and I haven't been brought up to date on, you know, how that has progressed over the years, but the original concept is that a project or a facility would be accessible, which doesn't necessarily mean that every aspect of it had to be accessible, but the project has to be accessible. So that then gets you into interpretations when we're dealing with something like Bell's Neck as to how much of it needed to be accessible and what parts need to be accessible.
Right.
And that becomes a combination of a practical problem and, you know, a legal issue.
So, question. What you're referring to, Jim, it's a question, I'm making a statement, but it's a question. What you're referring to is projects that are funded by the federal government and possibly the state government. That is, if you're taking that money, then there's a requirement to make the project accessible. And is that the case? Or not? I mean, if,
I've heard that.
I think it, you know, and again, I'm not completely up to date on the law in this area, but I think it includes municipal government also.
oh, I see, any money that any government
Right.
spends on
Just-
a
Just
project,
like this town hall has to be accessible, and that's why the elevator is there.
okay, well,
Well,
sounds like
that'll
we're
be,
getting into,
I mean, I think we're getting into a legal issue,
yeah,
which while I think,
into the weeds.
Amy, I think might may be very helpful with regard to the practical, you know, sort of how to implement that in practice. It may also be helpful to get, you know, an opinion from town council.
if you want me to ask for one, I can do that.
I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, of course.
Because I think we need to know in this situation, how far does ADA extend? You know, and, you know, how far would we have to go in order to make this area accessible for elderly, handicapped, whatever?
Okay. Is there
Okay.
consensus? You want me to ask council that question, or put a request in to ask council that question?
I think it would be
Yes.
helpful.
Yes.
Okay, I have to put a legal request
I
in,
think,
Yeah.
which
I
is
thi-
fine,
I
but,
think- I think we're taking the time to do this plan and study, and I think that would be a good component to know
okay,
for us, because it may be a project by project within that whole area, like improving the parking lot, the fish ladder, then you gotta make that accessible at that point, then something else, but that's all we wanna know, I think.
okay,
I do.
Yeah, and, I mean, again, it may be that it applies to the entire facility, which would be the entire Bell's Neck, but it may not mean that every aspect of Bell's Neck needs to be accessible, as long as we get a definition of either project or facility, you know, accessibility. So, but I think those are legal questions that it would be helpful for us to have the answer to.
okay.
All right,
Then we'll know for funding, when we go for projects, what we're gonna need.
Yeah, exactly. Because it may require additional work and therefore additional funding.
Okay,
okay,
I can do that. Really, the remainder, the main part that we can go through tonight is on page 20, the naturalization goals. I believe, this is, Brad, you put these together. I added a little visual map, so when you're reading along with it, you can see what we consider the North Bog, South Bog, East Bog, West Bog. It's nothing fancy, but it does the trick. And again, these are, we could talk about the goals now.
And I did not add the blueberry concept, because it just came up after this, so that's something to be tucked into here.
into that first naturalization paragraph, is that what you're saying?
Well, it talks about,
Or-
the shrub nursery, which is something that came out of public hearings earlier.
Uh-huh,
You could keep that and add the blueberry patch,
uh-huh.
or substitute the shrub nursery for the blueberry patch.
We could add it to, on page 22, short-term farming options, but call it something, like, or just in there.
Yeah, there's a language on pick your own
High bush
cranberries.
Yes. The lobush just don't give you very much to eat.
They don't do well in that environment anyway.
No, they like dry.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll add that to the short-term farming options.
Okay.
Oh, good, you added a map too.
And Heinz is gonna weigh in on the water management.
So in this, the map you're referring to is the satellite image here, right? In that, the borders or whatever, they're defining individual parcels? So the main part of this is all one parcel, is that correct? Or,
Yes. Where the bogs are is one parcel of land.
mhm.
And when Brad did his, on the on page 20, talked about the north, south, east, west bog, that's an image too, that that shows you what that means.
I also agreed to play around with a GIS map that might show the flumes
Yeah,
in
this
soil.
was a quick,
Yeah, no, this is almost what we need, but I'll also, maybe you have the ortho, and then you also have another view that shows the structures, calls out where the different flumes are,
also show, that's a good idea.
shows the fish weigh, so I can play around with that.
And I can label things, like we can label the parking area, we can give make it a little bit nicer. That's what I meant to send you today, was the report on the wall and the flumes.
Parking area isn't really visible in this satellite image.
No, it's treed. I could point to it.
Okay?
Yeah, I can make this image bigger and make it a whole page image, and that way I could fit more on there.
Okay. So there's also just a bullet here, native plants, and that relates to blueberries as well, right?
They are native, yep. But, so we could, if you're gonna make, which section is gonna be blueberries? I can't remember.
Part of N, W, and E, I think.
The northern bog will be allowed to transition into upland forest. So that was where we were talking about blueberries.
I think we changed that, because, Alan and Wayne felt that.
Yep,
northern
that's
would
fine.
be good for that species, so.
Will be transitioned into a high bush blueberry patch.
Yeah, put 100 plants in there. Next year, put 100 more down on the west side. 5 years' time, we'll have a whole bunch of plants, 500 or so.
Cut through the woods to get to them.
See if you can get to them before the deer do.
Birds,
Yeah,
the birds, the
Game.
birds.
The birds. All right, we can change that. If we're in agreement about what's gonna happen in each cell, then maybe Sophia and I can work together and come up with a list of native plants. But a lot of things are already, aside from the invasives, a lot of good natives are also naturally coming in
Oh,
there.
yeah, surely.
So how much do you wanna augment,
Yeah, really, I don't, probably not at all. In 5 years' time, it'll look
It's gonna be
like Bank
gone,
Street.
yeah, it's gonna be gone. If you're gonna put blueberries, you want people to go out there and pick, they're just gonna walk out there, cause there's not gonna be any access there, cause those roads are starting to grow in
Yeah.
tremendously.
Well,
Unless
we
we
did
clear
put
those
mow
roads.
it to a width of 8 feet.
That upper end there doesn't have a road all the way around it.
It does now, yeah, Craig put it on.
Did he put a road around it?
Yeah, yeah.
Was that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
we don't,
It's all grown up
that's
now.
one of the ones we don't mow, that doesn't get mown that often. It does, we go around
Yeah,
here, but we
right.
don't go up and around. But that's something we could do.
Yeah, if it's a road.
Get on it now, you're
Yeah,
gonna
if it's a road and we just weed whack it a
Yeah.
couple times a year.
need a big, wood chipper to get in there pretty soon, 'cause it's getting
Really,
big.
is it bad?
Yeah, those pine trees are taking off.
Um,
It's not something you can mow, you're gonna need a good,
up here, up and around?
yeah, it's getting growth.
Rushmore, huh?
Sounds like a fall AmeriCorps project.
There you go.
A log skiddy you're gonna need pretty quick.
They need places to learn how to cut stuff down, so,
There you go.
Yeah, that will need it.
let me make myself a note there. Need
Those things are growing fast.
big machinery. Well, at least chainsaws or something.
The earth heals itself real quick.
It does.
There we go.
Okay. ACC project?
After all these items, there's a whole enumeration and table of projected costs.
It's really invalid at this point. That's
Yeah,
from
right.
2012.
So are you just thinking, take that out? I mean, or,
It's part of the original document. I think it's maybe interesting going forward 20 years from now to see what things were. Maybe we added, I don't see any harm of leaving it in there.
but marked as,
See, it's not a bad place to include the new priorities,
Yeah.
and, the other document will stand, so people can always look it up in the other document too.
yeah, it's sort of confusing to have these amounts in here, which, I mean, what can you do these days for $1,500?
Not much.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Make a phone call, that's about it.
I mean, my suggestion would be if we want to leave it in, that we add another column of what the cost would be in 2023.
Yeah, I wouldn't be qualified to say what costs were at this
Yeah,
point.
right.
I mean, at this point, maybe we make that,
This
maybe we make that chart an appendix for what, you know.
I wouldn't leave it there, I'd put it in the appendix or just have a citation to the old plan. The old,
Yeah, I
the old
like-
plan will still
Yeah,
be.
Appendix or citation to original plan.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And we can put in priorities there and maybe talk about costs, possibly if we want to talk about costs.
And then I added your draft water flow management plan, Brad, and then I added a FEMA appendix,
Yep.
which has changed since, because 2014, everything got remapped, which was after this first rendition of this plan, so a lot more is actually in floodplain than people would think up there. People wouldn't, I don't know if the actual reservoir had previously been mapped. I think it was only up to the flume.
Do you want me to touch on the water management plan a little bit, the water flow plan?
Yeah, sorry, yes.
So we're gonna hear from Hines, and that'll be good to get that feedback. The 2 points I'm asking people to consider are really, what's the control for the flumes? You know, do we, right now, boards are adjusted by eye to keep flow moving through the bogs. Do we set, an elevation? Do we set a staff gauge? That's kind of open question there for everybody, because you want some operational metric there. Here's what you do, you keep the board at this elevation, or you just, you can say just keep the flow going, which I think you guys would probably say, just do it that way. But there'll be different crew down the road, different people looking at this, and so you might want to have some kind of more an operational step. And so I just put some thoughts there, whether it's a staff gauge or actual board height.
What's the metric, though? What's the number what can you measure that'll tell you you have the boards at the right?
If things are done, like an engineered structure that I deal with all the time, you have an elevation set to a survey. And to a datum, and we're not gonna have that here probably. The second choice is the board height in inches or relative to a staff gauge. Maybe just have board height in inches, keep it simple.
This is a personal question, because I own the land to the north, we have the rights to that water, and I have the rights to control that water height in our deeds. before my grandfather sold this to the guy that sold it to the town, he put that in the deeds, and it's in land court deeds. So, not just, just to speak out loud, whatever is there, you have to be aware of other people's rights to that water and the height. I don't know if that impacts anything of what you're trying to get, but if I needed to lower that water down, I can lower it down to 6 inches above the mud sill on the outlet flume.
Don't you have rights to Iron River water?
It's a reservoir.
Yeah, right, but that doesn't mean you could come onto the bog and make a board adjustment. They would have no.
I thought you were talking about the flume at the dike, at the
No.
Heron River.
No, no,
You're talking about the naturalized bog?
yeah, that's those.
Oh, all right, well, that's something different, okay, I stand
Right.
corrected on that.
Yeah,
But it will impact the height of the water at different times.
yeah, it'd be a cascading effect. You have access to Iron River flow, which is, the water control would be the Fishway exit, I think,
That's right, there's two of them
and
there.
the flume, auxiliary flume. The other ones I'm talking about are down gradient.
I got it now, I
Yeah.
understand, I thought you were talking about the control of the
Yeah.
reservoir height.
What would you do? You know water pretty well. What would you
Well, when
do?
it rains, you better have somebody on board that know what's going on. A couple of weeks ago, with all that rain, I went down there and pulled board.
Yeah,
Because if you don't, it's gonna go, 6 inches of water coming down there is fast, and if Heinz Proft is retiring, who's gonna fill this void in the next 6 months or whatever? I mean, so, when you had the bogs leased out, that grower would maintain all of those flumes there. And you wouldn't have, the town of Howard didn't have a problem.
so you're talking about the auxiliary spillway at the Fishway. Yeah.
And he would pull the boards, the bog operator would pull the boards in the bog to let the water go through there to help alleviate the pressure on the dam and the dike.
So what's happened the last couple of years is I've been managing the boards at the Fishway because I've been going there a lot. And I communicate with Heinz. I used to communicate with Tom, retired.
Tells me,
Yeah, Tom retired. He knew that, those flumes and those boards, and now Heinz is retiring, so, but my participation is in the spring, fish are running. So you need somebody, that's why my second point for people to consider is who's responsible.
I was gonna ask that same question.
And so this plan, it says, who's gonna be doing it? And,
So,
so,
but shouldn't it say it's the Natural Resources Director? The town is hiring someone for that position.
yep,
There are openings, it's posted, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, they're doing
We should say it
second
very
interviews, so.
definitively here that that's a responsibility of the Natural Resources Director, not ask the question,
well.
because then,
I agree with you, I think in most Cape towns, it's the way it goes, but it's conservation property, managed by the Conservation Commission, so I put it there to say, okay, who is it? It could be Amy's department, typically it's the Natural Resources Department, but, or it could be, in some towns, you don't have well-developed departments, and it's the Conservation Commission, it's the chair who decides, that type of thing, so I just wanted the question to be there, because I think this plan should identify that person and say, this is what they do. And so one person's responsible for the boards.
I would just say, Natural Resources is responsible for monitoring water levels at various locations in this town. So, not that I'm saying I don't wanna do it, but it's, it fits more into that wheelhouse.
so why wouldn't we just say that?
Well, because I think that as a draft document, I wanted people to discuss it,
Okay.
and I'm fine making that edit, that's easy. but
I would like to learn, I have no problem helping, how to manage it, but,
I write these plans for fishways all over the place, and what I find is that people retire all the time, people move all the time,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden,
Things
somebody,
change quick.
yeah, no one knows what to do, so I like to document and say, here's who should do that.
Is it a single person or a department, like the Natural Resources
could be the Natural
Department?
Resources Department.
Yeah, exactly, so if somebody retires, there's somebody else working there or whatever. It's the department itself that
Work
should
in
be doing it.
conjunction with the Conservation Commission to.
But you also want it to be in the job description of when they're hiring a replacement. You wanna make sure that that is, the rest of the town
I'd have to read their
knows
description.
what they're hiring for, and make sure they talk to the candidates about that part of the job, particularly if it's not just one place, it's water levels all around town. Presumably someone who's qualified for the job would already know that that's part of the job, but,
Who's doing the interviewing? They should bring that up.
I know the harbor master, at least on paper, reviewed the applicants.
There's gotta be a job description, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, no, there is. I just,
Well, it
I
should
have,
be-
I have one, I have the job description, because I was past union president. But, I just don't, remember off the top of my head.
It should be in that description, what the,
Yeah, I can
duties
look,
are.
I can look at that. There
Yeah.
is.
yeah, I'm sure there is.
And when they get updated, so job descriptions have to, any edits have to go through the union.
You know where I'm coming from, John? It's natural, makes a lot of sense that it's DNR staff, but it's a management plan developed by the Conservation Commission, so
Yeah.
we're asking someone to do something, we don't supervise those people, so it's worth discussing. It's worth having a chain of command or something that identifies who would do this. And then let's think about, board elevations, We could say there's an aluminum sill. We could say 12 inches above the sill is the target to set it. And so that should be specified, something like that.
okay, I'm not qualified to even
Okay.
know.
I'll go out there, I'll make a bunch of measurements. I'll go out there and just see what it is now, and I think everyone agrees it's working pretty well now. Water flows, and,
Alan's helping.
I'm reading the job description right now.
That is, so I don't know if the whole job description's there. It's many pages.
May
or-
26, 2023.
how does it pay?
Pays pretty good.
Well, it says here in item
Night
2,
of
it
travel.
says serves as Heron Warden responsible for enforcing statutes, policies, codes, and regulations relations to Heron. Also supervise volunteer Heron Wardens, including training, gate closures, and Heron ladder supervision.
Well, gate closures.
There's like the job announcement plus the description that one's pretty extensive.
This is the essential functions underneath that.
Yeah, so they don't always put every single one that's actually in the job description under the essential functions in an ad.
Well,
I'll
it
get
lays
it.
it out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll put it on my task list to refine this plan, make it clear it's a DNR lead, and then I'll take some measurements and try to get a little more direction on the flume operations. And, yeah.
I'm glad Brad brought it up, because that is important. That was one of the things I was gonna talk about tonight, is the water levels.
Mhm.
It's gonna be a gap there with nobody supervising that water.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It could raise heck. Not
Yeah.
just there, Long Pond, everywhere, so.
Well, I mean, I would definitely, if you guys are gonna go down there, please take me. Tell me when you're gonna go down, because I'd like to learn.
what are your thoughts on the next steps for this? We've got through this group review.
Yep, so I think I just need to rewrite it so it's a complete, not rewrite it, but make it so it's a complete document without all these track changes and make it look like a final draft
Yep.
for you.
Okay.
And then at that next, you can look at the final draft and we can talk priorities at that point.
Would it be a pain if I go back and properly put my comments in? And, okay.
No.
Do
You
I
can
need-
always, you can write them in and scan them to me too, whichever's easier for you.
Okay.
Okay, so
For Bell's Neck.
for Bell's
Good
Neck,
good for Bell's Neck for tonight?
yeah, want to put this on the agenda for next meeting?
I will. We have,
We have,
we have a bit of a backlog of
Okay.
hearings coming.
maybe wait till the following one?
We'll see. I mean, I'll put it on if we can put it on. If we get to it, we get to it.
Probably won't be here next meeting myself.
Okay. We could put it on the,
See,
see, it'd be the 2nd, so the 16th would be the meeting after. Yeah, all these the continuances have, we still don't have many. I think we have 4 or 5, which is
Oh,
an average agenda.
yeah, right.
But they're bigger projects.
Uh-huh.
We have Skinnequit remediation next time. Got 109 Riverside Drive, the dock rebuild, 33 Snowin Road. Well, there won't be the amendment for Fiddlers won't be ready by then. There's one or two others. So, I'll put it on there and we'll see how far we get.
Okay.
Okay?
I have one other little piece of business,
Mm-hmm.
which is CPC related. As you know, I'm conservation representative on CPC. CPC has been going through a process of trying to get more input and more awareness amongst the public about what CPC pays for, and also soliciting more ideas from people for fundable projects. And part of that effort is an attempt to come up with sort of a uniform approach to signage, so you're identifying projects in public. When the public sees a project, they see a sign and realizes where the money's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got let's see, we have a design for signs, and they're gonna be like 4 banners and 4 like yard signs made to put in a couple of things, one of which will be conservation, or that's the idea. And tentatively, at CPC, at the last meeting, we decided to do that at Bell's Neck, down by the Herring Run. A banner that would go up like along the split rail fence. But I wanted to run it by the commission here, see if people have other ideas or input, or
What's the banner gonna say at the fence?
it's gonna say that the work there was funded by CPC dollars.
And that fence was, as well as the plantings behind it, but yeah, but in general, money, there's been money spent, CPC funds spent a lot in Bell's Neck.
Sounds like a good idea to me. Let people know what's going
Yeah,
on
yeah.
and
Right.
who's paying for it. Of course, they're paying for it, taxes, but.
The more information.
Well, that's
is better.
kind of the point,
Yeah,
is it will say
Your
some
tax dollars,
variation on your
Yeah.
tax
I
dollars, but
agree.
Yeah,
some people don't even know that, that surcharge
Well,
is
they
coming
think
off the
money falls out
top.
of the sky.
Yeah, but the whole point is that, you're,
Educate people, that's what.
right.
Yeah.
that's
I think
the
it's a good
point.
idea.
That's the point. So,
They gonna put a big one up on the Bank Street project when that starts?
maybe.
Facebook is gonna.
well, yeah,
Electrified when
man.
that happens.
The bids are in, the bids have come in, I think they selected a contractor.
Do you know who it is?
I don't know definitively.
No.
There were 3 bids, wildly different prices.
oh, really?
What was the difference? I mean.
Like factor of 2 or 3,
Millions,
that wildly
millions?
The
different?
low bid was 1.6 million, the high bid was around 6 million.
Whoa. Oh, that's someone who didn't want the
The
job.
low bidder is worrying right now. What did I forget?
There were 2 companies that
Alan,
have
that's
done this
former
project before.
I was told
One
one
who
day
had,
Just get a couple backhoes.
Yeah.
excavators. Well, they're gonna have, that's gonna be tricky, speak of all the water, that place is gonna be saturated, that thing's like a sponge right now.
oh yeah,
Oh,
When they
yeah.
get out there, you're gonna find some machines.
well, they're
going.
hoping to start the end of the summer too.
Oh, I thought August 1st, like originally proposed.
Oh, originally they wanted to start in like May, but it
It's the
got
wettest
pushed back,
point of the season.
yeah. All right,
Anything else? Take that as general agreement for
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
CPC thing, so that's all
I like
set.
it.
Oh, may I say one more thing? I had an idea, talking about different things, because the way that the country's going and the way the world is going and the weather that we've had here, Cape Cod, locally, everything that is growing substantially, growth in the roads and everything. Are we prepared, are we part of any emergency management group or anything? Because I have a gut feeling we're gonna have a hurricane. No, I'm just saying, what are the emergency provisions that I guess that gets exempt, right? I mean, if there's any kind of a
Yes, so,
conservation issues.
yep, so when a natural disaster happened, like a tornado that we had, or, usually the state issues an emergency declaration within 48 hours of that. And they typically, say 30 days. Like for the tornado, locally, I extended that another 30 days for people. So when you have a natural disaster, or when you get declared a state of
That's the
emergency,
word I was looking for, yes.
when you are declared to be in a state of emergency,
That's what
all
it is.
things go out the window, and you have emergency authorization to permit a lot of things to make sure
Safety's there.
safety, yeah.
I just look at all the tree growth in the roads. I mean, this is gonna be a tremendous.
You know
amount.
that, the water temperature, I heard this like 2 weeks ago, the water temperature in Florida is over 90 degrees. It's the
Yeah.
highest recorded water temperature in July off Florida. Think of all that moisture,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
those strong storms, so.
That's
Right
what-
now,
that's what I'm
this
worried
wind
about,
is,
yeah.
like, everything's being pushed offshore right now, but
I mean, just take
that's
a,
very warm.
when you
Yeah.
drive out of here, go down Great Western Road, look at the size of the trees that are above the high tension, the power lines. I mean, they're twice as high as the poles. I mean, someday we're gonna have a problem.
They've been cutting a lot.
They have,
Actually,
yeah.
they're cutting the voids through there, but still the tree is above it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just,
So the state has had a climate resilience program. It's another one of these things where the state allocates funds, but municipalities have to actually go after the money and go for the money. And I know, I heard about this a couple of years ago at one of those early March meetings, or what is that, where they were talking about that. And I know the town, I don't know exactly what Harwich has done to go after that kind of money. I don't even know if it's available, but
I went
is
to a
money being
conference.
sent to try to address these kinds of problems. What do you need to do in town to try to protect yourself from some of these events,
There's
like extreme?
climate resiliency funding.
Right.
I was just thinking outside the box that we may wanna encourage people, I know it's not the law right now with the conservation, but you may wanna increase more widths and different things to help avoid problems down the road.
A lot of people
Lessen the
since,
buffers.
I thought you were gonna say increase the buffer zones.
No.
That's what I'm interested in. You know, Mashpee did that, Alan. Let's talk more about that.
No,
Decrease?
not at
No,
all.
we don't wanna do that.
No.
I'm just
Good
thinking
God
that we got
almighty.
a problem.
We take enough rights away from people,
I
we're
got two
not doing
votes
anymore.
against that, okay. I'm not giving up.
I'm just thinking of all the growth and the vegetation, it may be affect us in a negative way.
we have leeway,
at some
like
point.
around structures, we try to, be reasonable, with people, with stuff that's around their house. If they come with hazard vegetation, I'm pretty reasonable with them. But,
What's the, I don't understand the logic, though. What, you're saying that a way to protect ourselves from worse storm damage is to get rid of some of the vegetation?
The
Is that what
tree,
you're saying?
your paved roadways are only like 22 feet wide, but the road width is 50 foot wide. And all your infrastructure is within that 50 foot wide. And so all those trees that fall on the wires and cables and.
Yeah, I get
You know what I
that.
mean? That's
I
what I'm,
get
that's what I'm trying to say.
You're not talking about buffers to wetlands.
No, but the
In
road,
general,
the
into
roadways go along wetlands in different areas. It does cross. That's what I'm saying.
pony
I
up
see.
for some
Okay.
underground utilities.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we're gonna be in
COD
trouble
makes perfect
sometime.
sense to have underground utilities. I know it's big bucks, but
That's a big part of the solution right there.
Well, that is the
Well,
solution.
all the new stuff has to go in, subdivisions all underground, right? Pretty sure.
I know.
Most new
I
subdivisions.
think all new subdivisions have to be underground.
I think most. I have
Okay.
one quick thing. We were successful in getting a AmeriCorps member again next year.
Oh, nice.
So Dory, our member this year, was fantastic. She did, some other time I'll, tell you some of the wonderful things she did for the town while she was here for her 10 months. But she's graduating. Her last day was yesterday with us, and she's graduating next week. I'm going to go to the graduation. And then October, we'll be getting at least one, maybe two.
When she graduates, where does she go?
She just got a job with Capitol Reef National Park out in Utah.
Really? Nice. Wow.
So she's gonna start as in the National Park Service. She's so
Cool.
excited.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Not a bad duty station?
Nope. So
Okay.
a lot of them have, they get really good opportunities,
Yeah,
you know.
that's good.
Okay.
Any other business? Hearing none.
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Got some
All
things
right,
for you to
thank you.
sign over here. These.